All right, so it feels pretty much like obviously we should do this after we did that revisiting the last two Avengers movies video. And
Especially since most of this series is Repercussion City.
yeah, because me and you were talking we were talking about this when Endgame came out. Like Endgame had just come out, and it was like it felt like such a finale, and like so much had been paid off, and like everything we had ever been waiting for. And that's just me as a movie fan. That's not even to take into account the people that have lived by the comics their entire lives. Just me as a movie fan alone, it was like that was so incredibly satisfying. Where else can you possibly go? Now, of course, I'm sure comics fans know exactly all the different directions we can still go in. But I was like, as far as movies go, it's like, are we? Because even Far From Home seemed like it was going to be like, I mean, yeah, I guess that's here, but I mean, we had our finish, and it's like, and people were kind of saying that Far From Home was basically kind of its own epilogue, basically, to that whole era. And then after Far From Home happened, then it's like, well, that was also really satisfying and a great cliffhanger. So it's like, it'll be exciting to see another Spider-Man movie, but it's like, how do you just keep expanding? They have all these ideas for these shows, and I don't know about the shows. It might be overkill. I don't know. And then WandaVision happens, and you watch WandaVision, and suddenly, I don't know about you, but it's like, yeah, let's go again. Like,
and then I think it helps too that, and we talked about this in the last video. Of course, Marvel would find a way to benefit from the virus, because thanks to the virus, everybody's had a year break before WandaVision came out.
Yeah,
and I remember I told Susan when we watched the first episode the first time, and the theme started up in the opening logo sequence, I told Susan, I was like, it's so good to hear that again for new material.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of geek out a little bit here. Knowing the quality of product that you get with Marvel, does hearing that now kind of psych you up?
I was just going to say one thing that I have talked about before was, even though, like, the last movie was not great and people have their opinions about the one before that, it's the way I feel about the crawl at the beginning of a Star Wars movie. When you're seeing like a brand new Star Wars movie, and it's like there's nothing like the feeling of seeing the crawl before a brand new Star Wars movie. And it's like, I'm assuming that's basically the kind of feeling you're getting when you hear the Marvel theme and see the logo.
And then within the logo, you get all the shots, like you said, Tony snap. One of them is like Cap turning to face an army, and it's just like, it gets you jacked all over again. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot, this is fucking badass, and we're back.
Yeah, because I kind of shunned the whole, everybody trying to say the whole, well, not everybody, but that small minority of people that don't care for Marvel or like any of that stuff, and they're trying to get on this whole thing about there being widespread superhero fatigue. Everybody's like, just wait for it, it's coming. And movies just keep getting bigger, and it's like, oh, that superhero fatigue, it's coming. It's definitely going to hit audiences soon, and things just still keep getting bigger.
And then Endgame becomes the highest grossing movie of all time and sends James Cameron into a stroke.
But then, yeah, like you were saying, it's like, even as big of fans as we have been, that year break was probably necessary. So just to kind of it's almost like an insurance before we really jump off again. And now it's like, before I was talking about, well, first off, I think it was the whole thing of the shows were going to be on Disney Plus and stuff like that. And it's at the time, pre-Disney Plus, the thoughts were really another streaming service, like how many of these are we going to have? And then obviously Disney Plus is kind of a blessing. And it's like, yeah, this is easy. This is easy to access. And then it's like, yeah, okay, now now that WandaVision's done, it's like, I was totally ready for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And it's like, bring on Doctor Strange 2, bring on Spider-Man 3, bring on Captain Marvel 2, bring on Loki, I suppose. Like, I talked about my reservations about Loki in the last video, but yeah, let's see. Like, let's see what happens.
The Hawkeye series.
Yeah. All these things that are kind of giving us more of the video, because a lot of people were saying, like, I remember, like, pretty much right before WandaVision, I had heard a comment that now stands out where it was like, oh, it kind of sucks that there's a lot of light back and forth between a lot of the different characters in the Avengers movies.
Mm-hmm.
But like one of the few characters that just has to be completely serious all the time is Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, I wonder what would it be like if Wanda kind of got to really break out into a different way we haven't really seen her. And then that's like literally the purpose of WandaVision.
WandaVision also gives, I also really like WandaVision because it gives me one of my favorite things over and over and over again. And I don't know why I love it so much. I love the visual of Vision in clothes.
I remember when we first saw him in Civil War, when he came through the wall, and it's like, well that's kind of jarring. And then he's got just that polite attitude that Paul Bettany can do so well, just kind of fits somehow.
Mm-hmm. And he also gets to have a lot of fun with this too.
Yeah, I was seeing an interview where he said something about prior to this, he had no idea that sitcoms were basically his wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm. It is. Like when you watch this, you're like, oh my God, how has Paul Bettany never been in a sitcom?
And I do have to say, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the sitcom thing. So obviously that's where a lot of praise comes from because they portrayed them so accurately, like all through the decades.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's almost eerie how well they did the opening credit
Mm-hmm.
sequence. But what I probably need to address is that thanks to you and your excitement, you were about 4 or 5 episodes in.
Mm-hmm.
We talked that one time, and you couldn't contain yourself, and you're like, I have to tell you what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because I wasn't quite sure when I was going to watch it at that time, so I was just like, all right, fine, go for it. So when I started WandaVision, I knew what exactly was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about that is I can very easily see how you almost kind of like, was there much going in? Because I didn't really see any of the advertisements, just like posters, but was there really any indication until the very last shot where we see what is eventually revealed to be Darcy's hand watching it?
Mm-hmm.
Was there, how much indication was there before you went in that it was more than the sitcom setup?
It kind of just made it seem like it's going to be this fun little thing that they did. And when you get through the series, by the time you get to the end, you're like, this is fucking dark.
Yeah, because the thing was where it's like we were talking about how Black Widow's movie is going to be an origin movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how much enjoyment are we going to get out of this already knowing that she's dead now?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how are you going to watch something like this sitcom setup, this happy sitcom setup between Wanda and Vision, knowing Vision's fate? And the fact that it is a continuation and not just like a side thing
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot more sense. And the fact that
and then you find out the whole idea is born out of Wanda just going off the fucking reservation.
Yeah, and how it's like the whole thing is about grieving and loss.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of really poignant lines in there. Like, one that people often cite a lot is when Vision and Wanda are sitting on the bed and Vision says, well, what's grief but love persevering? Like, that hits a lot of people really hard.
Yes, I saw one comment where people said, does Feige just have these lines by themselves stashed in some drawer and he just whips them out? Or...
I think what's funny is not 5 minutes before that, Vision sees part of a house fall on Bryan Cranston and says, is it funny because, how does he word it? I just watched it today and I can't remember how he words it. Fuck, I can't believe I tried to make it a point to remember it. It's like, is it funny because of the grievous amount of pain that man went through? And Wanda just responds, he's not really hurt. And Vision's like, how do you know? Not that kind of show.
Yeah, it's like, and just lines like that, just throwaway stuff is like such like showing a perspective on the whole sitcom thing, like having different things, like basically tone is what it's referring to.
I think what really helps sell it too is for two characters that we build up that they had a romance, but there wasn't a ton of build up. You had things in Civil War and you had it in Infinity War. But these two have amazing chemistry. Amazing chemistry.
I was, like to the point to where if it had stayed the sitcom thing the whole time, I think people would have still been happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people that might be more critical of the franchise that would have preferred it was just that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does get very Marvel-y in those last two episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point that I do kind of wish, I get that Agatha is a comics character.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Catherine Hahn can literally do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was talking about it to a friend the other day, and I was telling her that it's basically like Catherine Hahn is basically timeless. This proves.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Catherine Hahn had been an actress in the 50s, this proves that she would have been an actress in the 50s, and then all through the decades. And then when you look at how, if you look at Bad Moms or something, and how modern she comes off,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like and then of course the villain that she becomes. But the thing was, as great as that character is, and that's her theme song is completely taken. There's every day my YouTube feed is filled with new versions of that song people have done. But a part of me was also thinking, with how well this was exploring her grieving process with Vision, at the end of the day, I was like, did it really need a villain? Even though it was built up to the whole time we learned. I see the whole picture now. It was just really kind of at the time I was thinking, did we really have to go the villain route for this?
I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think you see this with the big picture too. Without Agatha, we would have kind of been stuck in neutral here. She advanced us to the next stage of the story.
Yeah, and obviously, propels us into the direction that Wanda's going for future movies, particularly Doctor Strange 2.
Mm-hmm. Which is given away as soon as Agatha says the line, "You'll be more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme." And as soon as you hear that, you're like, Wanda and Doctor Strange, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm on board. Let's strap me in. I'm in for this ride.
It hadn't occurred to me at all until I started seeing comments about it. To the point that I'm really trying to remember if there's something that negates this, but it's such a common thing to be said now. Apparently, that this is true. And I kind of couldn't believe it. So, we've known Wanda, technically we've known Cinematic Universe Wanda since one of the post-credit scenes of The Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And then into Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
So in, what was it, the next to last episode?
It's yet another gift that Captain America the Winter Soldier has provided for us.
So I think it's the next to last episode, where the episode ends with Agatha calling her Scarlet Witch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time ever in the franchise she's been called Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. They really how do I say this without creating a bad image? Kevin Feige really knows how to hold his load in.
Because I can't even remember, because like I said, since I'm not really familiar with the comics, I can't even remember how I knew her name was Scarlet Witch, now that I think back on it, because it's like, I've always called her Scarlet Witch, but they never said it even once. So that was a wild thing, because I was like, the way it kind of ended, I was like, oh, that's like I could sense it was a big deal how it ended, but it's like, but why is it a big deal that they'd end the episode that way going into the last one?
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw that comment, and it's like, I never realized they never called her that up until that point. And then it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of things leading in, after watching WandaVision, I went back and watched something like 1 billion times. And it's weird I went back and watched it 1 billion times, because it's something we literally just talked about. Do you think there's an intentional, full-on lead-in to this show in one shot of Endgame.
Which is?
There's a whole thing about when we get the whole flashback of her trying to get Vision's body, that she just wants him to have a burial. And that basically sets off the entire show. When we get the big shot at Tony Stark's funeral, and we're going by everybody.
The show-off shot.
Yeah.
We just fucking did that shot.
When we get to Wanda, she's standing next to Bucky and Sam. And Sam's kind of putting his arm around Bucky. And Wanda's just almost like she's off in her own world. And literally when you watch, like, her mouth opens like something's occurring to her. It's like, do you think Olsen was directed in that shot to basically, like, it's basically Wanda having the epiphany Vision should be getting this to? And then that directly leads into her going to get Vision's body, and then ultimately where we end up in the show. It's like, is that one brief shot of Wanda in Endgame setting off this whole thing? Because I like to think so, and I feel like they have enough foresight that I don't put it past them at all.
Yeah.
So it's like you can go back and just like study the expression she has in the funeral shot, even though it just pans by her.
Yeah. I also like too how everything that Wanda went through with that, and then to find out what she did, like, her grief is justified.
Yeah, that's one of those cases where I mean, people who are really devoted, I'm sure, have known this for some time, but it's like, when you just kind of watch the, like, usually mainly if I'm watching the Marvel movies, it's because I knew when it's about to come out. So every now and then there's still these certain aspects that may just be going by me, but it's like, it's weird to me that it never really fully set in until this show, just how much Wanda's dealing with. And I love that a lot of this is told through these kind of, like, usually subtle is a bit of an overused term, particularly in these, but stuff like how we've got her whole backstory. And we got everything that happened with her and her brother. Then we got her brother's death. And then there's the whole thing how she sets off the events in Civil War by accident. And the way that she's dealing with all this stuff at the same time, and we deal with this kind of stuff in WandaVision.
Let's not forget that later in Civil War, she had to be on the opposite side of Vision. She had to put Vision down. Yeah, with her and Vision being on opposite sides, and then she ends up having to put Vision down.
Yeah.
Like, put him, like, fucking down. Like literally through. Yeah. So she had that going on, too. And then you take into account that you get into Infinity War, and she had to kill him once, watch him die a second time.
And by the end of the show, has to watch it again.
Yeah. So do we agree that if you had Wanda from the end of WandaVision in that last battle versus Thanos, that she would have ripped him in fucking half?
Because you mentioned in the last video, it's like, it would have happened.
Yeah. She would have just pulled him apart limb by limb. He would have been dust anyway.
In the direction I was going with the Civil War thing was how they deal with her, like how the whole thing kind of still tries to keep the upbeat feel as much as possible, especially when we get the ads in between. And then there's the paper towel ad. It's very upbeat when you're looking at it, but then when it gets to the tagline and you realize the brand name of the paper towels, you're like, that is the saddest thing ever. She's still dealing with that. Like, what's the tagline? Is it Logos paper towels, cleaning up the messes you make, even if you didn't mean to?
Yeah.
It's like, damn you, Frank Grillo. what you did.
Even the commercials mean something.
Yeah, they all have like those callbacks.
Mm-hmm. What'd I tell you about the yogurt commercial?
Yeah, that was terrifying. how appropriate that was in the Halloween episode. I do kind of wish we had gotten the Halloween episode a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been like, because by the point that it happens, we're dealing with a lot of the background stuff, like what's going on outside of the text stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I kind of would have liked a bit more of a straightforward Halloween episode like we had in the first couple of episodes,
but at the same time, I do like that it kind of turns the trope on its head that in a lot of sitcoms and shows, holiday episodes like that are typically like throwaway episodes, like not a lot happens plot wise, and this Halloween episode like pushes the plot forward.
Yeah, I think they call those bottle episodes.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are kind of like their own thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about the fact that I know there was a lot of people talking about like there was a big buildup of if there was going to be some giant cameo towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Evan Peters came in.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's thought process was, "Oh my God, who's next?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who else are they going to bring into this?" And I know people were really upset apparently about the reveal with Evan Peters and that he's not who he appears to be.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I would say, well, the timeline's way off anyway because we're in 2023 now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like at the X-Men movies don't give a shit about time. It's obviously
Mm-hmm.
who knows with that, but but the actual reveal that he's just some dude.
What do you think about the way he's dispatched at the end of the Halloween episode?
Yeah, I was going to ask, before I forget, I was going to ask you something at the beginning, and then I forgot about it. It was when I was talking about the whole thing about me knowing what was happening going in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said that you were aware that there was, like, it seemed like it might have been its own thing, but then there's the reveal at the end that they're somehow being launched.
Mm-hmm.
Without, and obviously it's a big thing, like it's a big twist reveal, clearly, when Monica comes out and has the revelation, oh my God, it's Wanda. Like, it's Wanda doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me knowing what was happening going in, it kind of feels like obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But were you, like, from your standpoint, like, what did you, because to my understanding, there was like the possibility that it could have been Wanda was being held prisoner by a force or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that what people weren't aware right away that it was her that was the detainer.
Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking before it was like revealed that it was Wanda doing everything?
I was waiting for a big bad to be revealed, like a lot of people.
So you were a little early, but it eventually came.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was basically like it kind of ended up being both. Where like there was Wanda's manipulation and then the manipulation from the inside, the back.
Mm-hmm.
So much manipulation everywhere.
Go ahead.
I was trying to remember what all the directors said his influence. There were two specific influences. I'm trying to remember what the other one was. Obviously, Pleasantville was one. I was trying to remember what the other one was.
Mm-hmm.
It's really obvious. I can't think of what it is on the top of my head.
Are you talking about for overall feel, not just the sitcoms?
Yeah, I'm assuming. I knew I had seen the director's name around, and I couldn't put my finger on who it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's done like everything TV, but specifically, he did the last 2 episodes of the first season of Fargo, which is my favorite season of that show, and he's done, I think, 43 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And it's like, somehow you combine the fact that he's dealt with Fargo and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and like you combine the two, and it's like, yeah, it makes sense that that he's able to handle material like this, especially the early stuff, the early episode stuff, where it genuinely does feel like not just a sitcom, but like the plots even, where there's the date on the calendar and neither one of them can remember what it is, and then there's a mix up, and it's.
And then when you get to the end, you find out the heart on the calendar is the heart from the deed of the house.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, Marvel stuff, especially with Endgame and Infinity War, brought out a lot of things in people emotionally. Do you think this show does a good job of hitting some pretty hard emotions with some of the things that go on? I know, like, when I was watching it with Susan, like, when Wanda opened the deed to the house, like, she just lost it. And then it hits people a lot. The end scene where she knows the boys are leaving, like they're not going to be there.
Yeah, I didn't like feel it as intensely as I did in stuff like Endgame or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it worked. Like I thought it was effective. Because there is that case sometimes where like even if you're not like really emotionally moved, like that doesn't mean that you think it doesn't work. It's just some things get you there, and some things are just you can just acknowledge that they are that powerful without having the physical reaction.
I know the other one too is it's a callback to a line from, I want to say it's Civil War, when she goes to feel Vision's body and she just says, "I can't feel you."
Yeah, I feel like the stuff in there, like the flashback stuff of her trying to retrieve him, kind of hit me more than the stuff later. And I think the reason for that is, as somebody that's not extremely familiar with comics, I had a lot of questions that were going through my head in like the last 10 minutes or so of the last episode, because it felt like so much was left hanging. Because like now we have, I think he's called Spectral Vision, is the white Vision, and it's like, so is he like Vision more or less back to normal now that his memories have been put in there? And where did he go?
How fitting is it that Vision's battle with himself devolves into a psychological discussion?
Of course.
In a library.
Yeah, it's like it brings back his interactions with Ultron, kind of. Actually, not even kind of. Like it just brings back those memories.
I also that's another thing I appreciate about this series. I liked Vision. I wish we could have got more of Vision.
And then there's the whole connection with obviously the whole Doctor Strange connection and the Darkhold, I think it's called, book. And then there's the whole thing of her hearing the children screaming is the very last thing in WandaVision. Or do we know what that is or means?
I have a feeling it has to do with the title, The Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, which is something that I'm obviously not extremely familiar with, but I've been told that it's...
What I'm guessing is she somehow unlocked a different universe. And I get the feeling that the plot of Doctor Strange 2 is going to start with her trying to find that universe and Doctor Strange just not having it.
Yeah, I'm really afraid I'm going to have trouble keeping up with Doctor Strange 2. It sounds like it's going to be so fucking complicated. I mean, I'm gonna try my hardest, and if need be, I'll watch it as many times as I need to. But it's also, another thing though when I think about Doctor Strange is are we gonna pick up on that Chiwetel thing anytime soon, or is that still open?
There's theories out there that the first half of Doctor Strange 2, Wanda's gonna be kind of like a villain that Doctor Strange is trying to get. Kind of like Civil War with Tony, and then they're going to have to like unite against Mordo.
Yeah, that would make sense because it's like I feel going in after WandaVision, it's like what's interesting is how WandaVision spent its whole time humanizing her so much, and then it basically feels like the main setup is super villain Wanda. But then it's like I don't imagine them, you know, like I imagine it would be something like what you said that theory is.
One of my favorite scenes is where you think that she's gone full villain whenever they fire that missile at her and she just walks out and you see like the shadow of her coming. It's like someone done fucked up. And then I love the added addition that when she's in the hex, like she has no accent, but as soon as she left, her accent was back. I thought that was a nice little detail.
I don't want to perv on Elizabeth Olsen too much. But you kind of have some feelings for Elizabeth Olsen you didn't have prior to WandaVision. Now,
are you talking about with the new costume, the magician's costume? What are you referring to?
The whole thing. Yes, I do. I did say. I may or may not. I watched it alone. I may or may not have said "God damn it" out loud when I saw the magician's costume.
And I love that that's offset by how Vision is acting. The whole magic show scene is wonderful because Vision's all fucked up.
Yeah, that's another thing too. How I love that they took the fact of what Vision is and managed to make that a problem that fit in a sitcom setting.
I also love how he's just always referred to as Vision.
Yeah.
Even in the opening credits, it's Wanda, the Vision.
That was the thing was I love that that's just his credit, and then it's like when they were just calling him that at work. Just...
Oh hey Vision, what's up?
That's what I love about this too. Is from like a creative standpoint, is with this concept and knowing that it's all under Wanda, there had to be so much freedom. In coming up with the ideas and the writing that you can do stuff where it's just like he's just called Vision at work.
Like, I also another scene that I really like is at the end of the 70s show when Wanda tries to get the credits to roll and Vision's just not fucking having it. Like,
I love it. It's such
a cool shot when they both fly in the air against each other. That's such a cool shot.
Yeah, this is something I wanted to mention and I forgot about, was the upside to you telling me what happened beforehand. Like the way people get to see it as a sitcom, you can appreciate it as that. And I was talking about stuff like, you know, they even take what Vision is and the fact that he's not human, and they do like the animated sequence where we see the gum get stuck in his gears. And you can appreciate it as that, like as a sitcom that would come from that era. And while I could also get that, the fact that you had told me already what's going on, the whole sitcom thing was so eerie to me at the same time because I already knew what the setup was. Because the fact that it was basically Wanda's very aggressive coping process, the whole thing already felt dark to me from the very beginning.
And the fact that the way it ends, she's as alone as when she started.
Yeah, and something else that adds to the creep factor when you mentioned the credits rolling was the way, even when it is getting darker, the way the audience laughter and clapping plays along is like really eerie. Because when the credits are rolling and she's getting serious, and he's trying to like stop it, isn't the audience just like applauding?
I also love, I can't remember, I think it's the 80s one. A lot of comments that I saw on it was people were like, I just can't with Kid Vision. I just can't.
Yeah.
For me, it's that one. And I just can't handle the 60s opening animated Vision. I can't handle it.
If I'm under the right impression, aren't we under... Because you look at that and you see that they appear to be actual child pictures of Elizabeth Olsen. And then you're like, what's Vision look like?
And he doesn't disappoint. Because I'm pretty sure it's just kid pictures of Paul Bettany with superimposed Vision aesthetics on it.
I was gonna say maybe it's a kid they put in makeup and then they put like they took pictures of, but it's like I'm hoping it's already existing pictures of child Paul Bettany.
I think it is child Paul Bettany, I believe. I think I read that somewhere.
That'd be much easier to probably Photoshop than put a kid in makeup.
Mm-hmm.
You ever watched some of the outtakes with Bettany in full makeup?
Mm-mm.
There's one for Infinity War where you can hear Ruffalo. Ruffalo either says something or breaks character or laughs or something off screen. Like you can tell it's Ruffalo just by the sound of him.
Mm-hmm.
And Bettany's in full makeup, in full costume. And he's got the dots on his face. So I'm assuming there's some CGI involved. But for the most part, it's the Vision makeup entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And Bettany just comes out in like his real voice and says, "Fuck you, Ruffalo." It's jarring in a very interesting way.
So who for you, I see this debated a lot. Who is the standout for you in this series?
I mean, a piece of me immediately wants to jump to Catherine Hahn.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like there's so much. I mean, it's the obvious answer, but there is so much at one time Olsen is doing here.
Do you feel like if it wasn't Marvel and that this was a movie that wasn't associated with Marvel, but Elizabeth Olsen was playing a character that was going through that much grief, she'd be on the Oscar radar just for the meatiness of that role alone?
Yeah, you take you basically take what she had to do as an act, like the decisions she had to make as an actress, and put that in any other role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember when she really broke out when Martha Marcy May Marlene came out,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought she was so overrated. And then it's like now, you know, I've since revisited Martha Marcy May Marlene since it came out, and I better appreciate what it was she was doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now that you can see like and it's weird that it takes a project like this where you would think, because I've talked about like when people talk to me about my fixation on Blunt,
Mm-hmm.
they'd say you must be psyched that it sounds like they're talking to Marvel. And my problem is I say I don't want her to do that because I feel like a lot of Marvel roles are kind of undemanding.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're going like the Fantastic Four direction or something.
Yeah, when you think comic book movies, you don't think of something that an actor is going to have a lot to work with. You essentially think of it as an actor doing something fun for an easy payday.
Yeah, but then you get into the whole debate of how much of an impression Downey left, especially in Endgame.
And I think what makes a difference too is you can tell that the actors that played major major characters in Marvel, they care. Like they brought their give a damn with them to work. They don't treat it like, you know, just an easy payday. They give them depth and character. Like you said with Downey, I mean, you know, all the range of things that he went through as Tony Stark, everything that Elizabeth Olsen went through from pretty much Infinity War to now.
And the crazy thing about Downey is that he's talked about plenty of times is how when you think about Tony Stark and where Tony Stark starts
mm-hmm.
versus Tony Stark being on top of the world, and he said it's weird how much he can relate his real life to Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see like the wide range that Olsen has here, it's like when they get the chance, because a lot of times they're in ensembles, and in ensembles, when you have to spread everything out,
mm-hmm.
like there's a reason people were saying Olsen didn't really get to do much prior to this.
That's why people were so disappointed with Captain Marvel, because Brie Larson got that spotlight and she didn't really do much with it. And it may not have been Brie Larson, probably wasn't Brie Larson, but there wasn't really a chance for that character to come across as interesting. Whereas I feel like WandaVision did it exactly right. It took a character that was kind of a background side character and made her hella interesting.
Yeah, because now that everything has happened the way it's happened, I'm curious to see the kind of Carol we get to see if she can kind of.
In what you cut out there, the kind of character she'll get in what?
Because Carol hasn't had really much of a chance to arc yet.
Mm-hmm.
She's had Captain Marvel, and she's had her little bit in Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
Pretty much. But this series even helped us set up that next movie.
Yeah. And that's the thing is where we see these, I mean, obviously, Tony Stark is there's a reason Tony Stark is kind of the face of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
He's a case where it's like instantly you could see, the different facets of his character, but a lot of them need those arcs. So I'm curious if we're going to get that with Carol as movies go on.
Mm-hmm.
She won't seem as bland as she does now. The more she gets to work with, and the more she gets to wherever they end up taking her.
The same thing happened with Chris Evans as Captain America. In the first Captain America, he's just kind of the bland goody two shoes. But by the end of the movie, by the end of Endgame, I mean, he's still a goody goody, but there's a lot more depth there and a lot more emotion.
Yeah, because we're gonna be unless they have a flashback, we're gonna be missing a key scene for Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is Maria Monica's mom's name?
Yeah.
That her death could have been a big her death could have been almost what the arc we saw with Steve when Peggy died and was dying.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're past Maria's death,
mm-hmm.
I don't know if we're just gonna rob Carol of that emotional payoff or what.
Speaking of that, I love that Marvel found yet an even different way for the blip to affect someone. We had not explored the option yet of losing a loved one while you were blipped.
And the fact that it was in the process of happening when she got blipped, and then it's like, oh yeah, the end of it was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, obviously there's continued, as we've seen in the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, they're playing with the blip a lot.
Mm-hmm. I love that it's become, it'd be so easy to use it as just a plot device, but it's not. It's not the focus of why a story is happening, but it can contribute to why.
Yeah, and they're doing a really nice balance of showing the serious repercussions of it and finding funny little jokes to make out of it also.
Are you thinking of Martin Starr and Far From Home?
And most of the references to it in Far From Home, the basketball scene still kills me. And yeah, the fact that they are able to find that balance, because I was talking about before about how sometimes Marvel doesn't seem to have complete control of when their comedy is. Sometimes they need to tone it down, and it's unnecessary. And you would think that the blip would be the kind of thing that's off limits because it was such a massive thing. But it's the jokes that they've made about it so far have all landed. I guess talk about the era. Something we haven't mentioned yet is some of the soundtrack choices.
Mm-hmm.
I love the use of Daydream Believer, which I think was also in a lot of the advertising.
Mm-hmm.
But one that I thought was really interesting because it was a delayed effect was the use of Voodoo Child.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it started in that moment, you're like, what the fuck? And then it takes you a few seconds, and you're like, oh yeah, I see what they're doing. There's a reason they only played the chorus when the words came.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, like we were saying before we started, it's interesting that overall it's not very long.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked when I turned on the first episode. It was 26 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And a decent fraction of that is just credits.
If you if you wanted to, you could take it to an editing room, trim some stuff down, and come out with a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah, the same friend I was talking about Catherine Hahn with had said something about, she had heard some people saying that they thought the opening credits and the ads took up too much time.
Mm.
First off, I would not take those out at all. That's a significant part of the charm comes from stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of really like how it's like, and you go on the whole sitcom thing also, is like that's the length of a sitcom episode.
Mm-hmm.
And they only get a little longer as more of the outside world is revealed. And when I say a little longer, the longest episode is the finale at 49 minutes,
mm-hmm.
which is like the length of a normal hour-long drama without commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with shows, it's like it's kind of nice to have that concise nature because you're getting a big thing in it. Because the big problem with a lot of shows is that they end up with filler.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, some people might say, you know, the openings or the ads are filler, but I don't think so either. Especially when you look at stuff like the paper towel commercial, where it's like there's something underlying.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no beef at all with that stuff. So is there anything else you have?
I know you don't typically like this person, but what do you think of Kat Dennings in this show?
I don't really. Have I said before I have something against Kat Dennings?
I was thinking you said you didn't really like her in the Thor movies.
I don't remember disliking her too much. She might be a bit much in the Dark World, maybe. And I know fans typically see her as they don't really care for Darcy as a character as far as the Thor movies go.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find it's interesting the way we haven't mentioned Randall Park, and we're almost to the end of this.
I know. I was gonna say after you finished your point on this, I was like, we can't not talk about Jimmy Woo.
But well, yeah. What I was going with that was the way they're bringing in. I love when they bring in characters that we're kind of not expecting them to continue, like Jimmy Woo and Darcy and all them. Because it's like when you think of the characters that could come into this, it's like when you see them, you're like, well, that's random. But then as the show goes on, you're like, no, this makes perfect sense. This is exactly how they would return.
Mm-hmm.
And I
love how you look at the combination of it. Those three. You've got Jimmy Woo, Darcy, and Captain Marvel's friend's daughter all interacting together when otherwise they probably never would.
That's how I was talking. That's basically the small scale version of what I was talking about when I was saying pre-Infinity War. How are you going to get the Guardians of the Galaxy into the rest of this?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just need that one connection. It's like, oh yeah, Thor. How perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, you just need one thing where it's like, yes, this person's job fits with what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And Randall Park's intro with the Ant-Man. I love you to love how relevant Ant-Man and the Wasp is becoming. These last two things are keeping Ant-Man and the Wasp alive.
Ant-Man and the Wasp has become like must-see now.
Yeah, and I love that because Randall Park is such kind of he's almost like as important as he is for keeping Scott in place. He feels like a throwaway comedy character in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And in here, he's one of the most important people in the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when he Wanda through the radio. I've seen Randall Park in a number of things now, yet apparently I can't pick up his voice right away.
He's Asian Jim. I've wondered too, and I know people spun this theory too. When he makes a phone call and talks to Clint, I wonder if that's Clint Barton that he's calling in a favor to.
What's interesting is the reason you doubt it is it seems that obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, why wouldn't it? I always forget the first time we saw Clint was Thor.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep until you go back, you forget just how connected they've always been.
Yeah. It'd be so easy to play the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game with the Marvel Universe.
It would be cheating.
Mm-hmm.
It would straight up be cheating. I mean, he's even, like, obviously he's mentioned a couple of times by name. It's like if he was actually in it, that game would cease to exist. I'm surprised they haven't snuck a clip of Footloose into the franchise yet.
Give it time. James Gunn's probably just securing the rights.
I think Footloose is Paramount. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so is Ferris Bueller. And Ferris Bueller's in Homecoming.
That's true.
Shouldn't be that hard.
That's the gateway right there. So, what are your overall impressions of the show? Like, what's your overall feeling of it?
I like it a lot. I love how character-driven it is. I love how it's this very elaborate representation of the grieving process.
Mm-hmm.
Olsen is incredible in all the range of shit she has to do here. I love seeing not just Bettany as Vision again, but Bettany as Vision as a comedy character.
Trying to live in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, like, he had those throwaway lines in Civil War where it's like, the door wasn't open or something, or the door was open, so I came through the wall, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Just the little misunderstandings they had. But to see him, like, go full-on sitcom character is exactly what it was, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. And like I said, the way they're tying everything in, I said, I just feel I felt a little, like, not as invested or attached to it, I guess, as we got to those last 2 episodes when it went the typical direction, even though we have discussed why that is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But especially for her to get her character from one story to the next.
Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, do you think that Agatha works well as a villain? Like, do you like her as a villain?
Yeah, I mean, if you had just told me, like, right up front, there was a villain character that was that character, and it was Catherine Hahn playing her, it'd be like, well, I mean, yeah, obviously that has to be sane. Like that.
I just love how, especially in the last 2 episodes, just how willing Catherine Hahn is to go over the top.
Yeah, and always appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen that her quite a few memes have been born from this, but specifically her wink is what I see around a lot.
Yeah.
So is that
what do you think of as they're introducing her as the villain, just to tack on at the end, she's like, oh yeah, I killed Sparky too.
Oh, that was I mean, obviously that's like the best part of the song. Like that's the big payoff. And if I remember correctly, that's right when the episode ends.
It's like she has this charming little number, and then she says that, and you just go, "Oh, fuck you, boo."
Those are the exact words that were in my head that I was getting ready to say. It's like, oh, she did this. Oh, she did this. Oh, she did that. Oh, fuck you.
And it's interesting too, like when you go back and watch, like you can pick up the little subtleties, like when Sparky's dead and they try to get Wanda to bring her back. It's so, now that you know where the story's going, her reaction is so obvious when she goes, "You can do that?"
Yeah. Yeah, another thing I was
funny, like it's neat how stuff like that takes on a new meaning once you've gone all the way through. Like when you watch it through the first time and she says that, you just think she's the nosy neighbor that's like, oh, that can be done. And then you realize it's a very sinister question.
Yeah. Those are always interesting, the double-sided performances.
Mm-hmm.
You see those around sometimes, and it's like the talent it must take to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and the directorial standpoint, I would think also.
I also love when Vision's kind of breaking free of everything. And I think you made a reference to this. I can't remember if it was on camera or off camera or not. When he's doing the Modern Family thing, when he's sitting outside of the van talking, then he's just like, what am I doing? And like as he gets up, he bumps his head on the boom mic.
That's what I was going to bring up too. Was we've glossed over. We were talking about how well they handled the earlier sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
We have failed in this video yet to praise how they handled the '90s sitcom. And then the whole thing where like, yeah, that's basically the trend now is the talking to the camera sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
The talking to the camera sitcoms that don't have laugh tracks now.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that they hit every single one all the way up to present day sitcoms.
Mm-hmm. It's just interesting because it's so character driven and everything, but at the same time, you can tell it's a love letter to television.
It's crazy how many just details are in it.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, the early episodes, the 50s and 60s one, those plots, I could definitely see Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore going through those plots.
Yeah. Especially that first episode especially I was like, I feel like I've seen this show.
All for the dinner party.
And that's kind of like also when you look at the openings, when they took from like you can see the Full House shot, you can see like the Family Ties opening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to the point though after a while where it becomes seamless what's taken directly from other shows and what they put in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't even tell the difference after a while.
And I love the little detail that the reason Wanda knows about those sitcoms is she ties it back to a happy time in her life.
Yeah.
Like there's so much, it's just so well put together and everything has a purpose.
We did touch on something earlier that I wanted to get your opinion on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can see where people are. I'm not really passionate one way or the other on this, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess some people are really upset. Basically, that every single time he's been brought into a franchise, Quicksilver has been screwed over.
He's been what?
Screwed over.
Oh.
Because you've got Evan Peters in Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm.
The time in a bottle scene that everybody loves. That, yeah, I would say is the best scene in Days of Future Past, and I love Days of Future Past as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have one of the only good scenes in Apocalypse, the Sweet Dreams scene, where he does the same thing, only with the exploding mansion.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was,
I love the close-up shot of the dog with the pizza.
Yeah. But the thing is after he has his big moment in Days of Future Past, they basically cut him off because it was basically the writers saying things would be too easy if we had him. We have to write him out.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically did the same thing with Apocalypse. And then you bring in Aaron Taylor Johnson for the MCU,
mm-hmm.
and you kill him.
Which sucks because Aaron Johnson is way too good of an actor to just come in and out like that.
Yeah, people focus on Age of Ultron and Godzilla when they say he's totally uncharismatic. It's like, watch literally every other thing he's done.
Dude, I just rewatched Savages the other day. He's great in Savages.
I just love that you've rewatched Savages recently.
Netflix.
I was thinking about it the other. I was thinking about the other day how much I love Travolta.
It was. I caught it on Netflix because for some reason it was like the number 6 trending thing on Netflix in the United States.
I did a video on it last year with Blow. That was the last time I watched it. But
I forgot how batshit insane Savages is.
It's fucking nuts.
And the fact that of all people, Benicio del Toro gets a happy ending. He's such a shit, and he gets a happy ending.
And of course, the big thing into this is they keep cutting him short in the X-Men movies. They kill him in Age of Ultron. And it's like, you bring him into this, and number one, it's not even him, and number two, the reveal is nothing more than a boner joke. To my understanding,
He's like
to my understanding from what
he's
I
like
heard,
a more juvenile version of what they did with the Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
yeah, basically, I will still to this day defend the Mandarin twist because Ben Kingsley handled it that well. But and the fact that there's been teasing that, you know, it's like it's not the Guy Pearce right here. The Mandarin is out there somewhere. Yeah, to my understanding, people were very upset about that Quicksilver release. Like I said, like even if there's a timeline problem, still, you know, as far as X-Men goes, timelines have apparently never mattered. So.
I didn't mind it because I've never had an experience where sticking Evan Peters in something made it worse.
Yeah, nothing I can remember.
Even if he's in something not great, at least he's fun.
And I did hear the theory of was this whole thing with bringing Evan Peters in just for a boner joke the whole reason for the Fox merge? Like that's what it all was amounting to. So is there anything we didn't hit?
Not that I can recall.
So I can't think of anything either. But really what it just comes down to is I love how psyched I am again for the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've had a break. Because I got it when we revisited the last two Avengers movies last week, it was like the magic was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And with movies that big that are so big at the time, you would think like some of it might wear off over time. But apart from just little bits here and there, maybe not really. It's still. And then, like I said, we got Doctor Strange 2 coming. We got Captain Marvel 2 coming. We got Spider-Man 3 coming. We got the Loki show. We got Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's currently happening. Hawkeye show, and what's interesting is award season is kind of bleeding into this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the big hype during award season is the fact that there's a 99.9% chance Chloe Zhao's going to win Best Director.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one that's doing Eternals, or she's done Eternals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all the Marvel hype is coming back through all the facets of what we do.
I don't know anything about Eternals. The only thing that I know is apparently Thanos was one.
That's interesting.
So we might get a little more insight into him.
Is that the one that Angelina's in?
Yes.
That is all I know. Angelina's in it and Chloe Zhao directed it. That's
There's
all
also Shang-Chi, which is coming up, which is supposed to be like the first Asian superhero that's going to be like a focal point.
And that's is that where the Mandarin tie-in is going to come up?
I believe so. Yeah.
It has something to do with the rings.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's obviously Black Panther 2, which I wonder. I don't know if anything has come out yet. I know the title has been dropped.
Mm-hmm.
But it was how under wraps are they keeping what exactly they're going to do?
All I know is that Shuri is the Black Panther in this one. I
heard that, and then I heard they got really nervous because I guess Letitia Wright was like tweeting out a bunch of anti-vax stuff. And they were worried she was going to get canceled.
Mm.
if Letitia Wright gets canceled, what the hell do you do then?
I mean, if anybody can figure it out, Kevin Feige will figure it out.
I'm assuming that's going to blow over because you don't really hear much about it now. It was just kind of at the time thing. And I don't know if she ever backtracked or not or anything. But
I know IMDb put a poster up, and the poster is her.
Yeah, so it should be fine. I don't think.
I mean, it blew over with James Gunn.
Well, that was also kind of a non-issue, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean,
all it pretty much revealed to the world that James Gunn is fucking weird,
which we already knew. I mean, yeah, some of those comments were like really bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, but I mean, it's like we were saying before, where it's like you're talking about them having like every actor has to have a squeaky clean image.
Mm-hmm.
It's like even if they have, you know, they have remorse and they've tried to make amends and they've gone through the whole thing of we're a different person now. But let's stress again, the face of the MCU was whatever you want to call it, Robert Downey Jr.
The king of second chance.
I mean, it's worth stressing one more time. The James Gunn tweets were really fucking weird. But yeah. So everybody's had some stuff here and there, like how Chris Pratt is a part of that church that's like really anti-gay or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got apparently, maybe possibly Jeremy Renner threatened to kill his ex-wife. I know it's all extreme, but yeah, it's and
plus,
of course,
I think what else makes it exciting too is the MCU is so established now. It's proven anybody can pop up at any time.
Yeah, who was it?
Hell, we got Doctor Strange for 5 minutes in Ragnarok.
And when you work your way up the ladder, if there's anything, I want to say somebody on like a forum or a message board or something made the comment, Robert Downey Jr. has so much power, if he wanted to strap a giant dildo on the front of the Iron Man suit, he could get it done.
Yeah.
He'd find some loophole around that.
It'll just be interesting to see where it goes. You wanted to touch a little bit on the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier because you've seen it. This also seems like it's going to be in the theme of dealing with grief and loss. Because from what I gathered, do you get the same impression that I do that Steve's dead?
I mean, at the age he was at, surely natural causes got him at some point.
I think in Endgame, I think he's supposed to be 105.
Yeah, so it's like, so even if, so it's, I think basically it goes back to how I worded it in Endgame. Whatever it is, we're never going to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of like flashbacks or the What If series or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, how they like both he and Bucky have lost him.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think there is, I did have one problem that was kind of continuous throughout the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you had the same problem or not. There was so much clunky ass exposition.
It's a lot of setting things up. Like, that's the main difference. Like, WandaVision dives right in and shows you exactly what you're going to get. I think that's the problem is Falcon and the Winter Soldier have to follow WandaVision. Which, honestly, let's be real. There's nothing wrong with Sam and Bucky as characters, but Wanda and Vision is a hell of a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and that's really the whole point is that the reason that Sam and Bucky aren't as interesting is because the show is just, like, by the end of this show, hopefully we won't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice that this WandaVision is 9 episodes. Did I see correctly? Falcon and Winter Soldier is only going to be 6.
Yes, but I think each episode is 50 minutes.
That's I love you talk about them tying in all the different characters and all these side characters coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we start the episode with the villain we started with in the Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole scene, I was like, that guy looks really familiar, and his name sounds familiar. Who the fuck is that guy? It's like he's from the opening action scene of the Winter Soldier, is he not? He's that guy.
Yeah, and most people would know that because a lot of people, you don't follow MMA, but a lot of people that have been around MMA or at least know of it know of George St. Pierre, and that's how they would remember that. But not only that, but we get Rhodey right at the beginning.
I can't remember if I knew ahead of time he was in it or not.
I think I had mentioned it because I saw he was supposed to be in it.
And I saw he got the and credit, so I'm assuming he's going to be regular or semi-regular.
Probably. I feel like, too, from the first episode, one of the things that we're going to get out of Falcon and Winter Soldier is really good action.
You know what's really interesting about that? Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm slightly fuzzy. How Sam and Rhodey are so close at this point, to the fact that Rhodey is a player in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't Sam the one that fucked Rhodey up to where he needs like assistance walking now?
I think.
Because doesn't like when Stark's like over him, Sam lands and says, "I'm sorry," and Tony like blasts him.
If I remember right, in Civil War, I think it was a shot from Vision, and Vision was going for Falcon, and Falcon dodged it.
I guess I'm a little fuzzy on that, but I remember Sam apologizing and getting blasted by Tony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they sell really well that Rhodey just kicked the bucket.
Yeah, I am very interested to see where it goes, especially with the addition of. I don't think I would be that excited about the inclusion of this new Captain America if it weren't for the fact that it's Wyatt Russell. Have you seen anything with Wyatt Russell in it yet?
No.
Like 22 Jump Street or Overlord?
I've seen 22 Jump Street, but I don't remember what he did in it.
He's the guy that started the Tatum that they kept thinking was the villain. He's Wyatt Russell. Yes, he is Wyatt Russell. He's Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's son.
Oh.
He's got a lot of Kurt in him.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of the fact that Kurt Russell's son is the new Captain America, you're like, fuck Steve, let's go.
And then the way he comes out and poses, you're like, oh, this guy's going to be a complete tool.
Because I didn't know it was him until the credits.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like when he came out, I was like, who's this jackass? This guy's going to die in seconds. This guy's going to die faster than Joseph Gordon-Levitt after the events of The Dark Knight Rises.
Why do I feel like that if he was still alive, the character that would have introduced New Cap would have been Gary Shandling?
That sounds right. And I fucking hate that Gary Shandling saying Hail Hydra was the last time we saw him.
Yeah.
That was such a reveal.
I know. Another gift from the Winter Soldier.
Obviously, let's put our priorities in order. You know, R.I.P. Gary Shandling. It's not that important. It's more important that you lost your life, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still interested enough to see where it goes, but it definitely feels like where Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's almost kind of jarring going from WandaVision where the exposition was told with visuals and situations and character reactions, and Winter Soldier or Falcon and Winter Soldier just kind of feels like you're reading a book.
I know we're kind of past this point, but I'll say it anyway. Spoilers for the first episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Wyatt Russell thing is a big spoiler, but
mm-hmm.
Stuff like the reveal of who the old guy is.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the way you should reveal things.
Yeah.
But there's just so much explaining about like Sam's life.
But here's another thing too. This is where Marvel once again is stroking its own ego here. You flash back. I saw this on a Reddit thread and I completely forgot about it. It makes the scene carry even more weight when Tony in Civil War asks Bucky, do you even remember them? And he says, I remember all of them. We're paying that off now.
It's like in the moment, if you're feeling for Tony, you're like, oh, fuck this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about it more, and then now that we're seeing it in play in this, it's massively tragic for Bucky.
Mm-hmm. It's like he's living with his own curse.
Yeah. And I got pumped. I remember you told me this was going to be. You told me this months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of forgotten about it, and then I immediately remembered. And you better believe I got super pumped when I saw Zemo in his little notebook.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I forgot we were getting him back.
Mm-hmm. With his comics mask this time.
It's kind of a shame we won't get to see him interact with the one that captured him, ultimately.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, wasn't T'Challa the one that got him at the end?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be very interesting to see what they do with him now. Zemo.
Mm-hmm.
So
I didn't know this until I looked it up. Torres is the one that takes over the mantle of Falcon from Sam. So I wonder if we're going to have that play in. I've seen a few theories that the end of the series is going to be him taking over as Falcon and Sam's just going to become Captain America.
So I had a feeling he had to have been important, but I was going to be the guy that is going to be really important, or if he was going to be the guy that was going to die during that scene.
A lot of people point out how the way that Torres showed that he needed to urgently talk to Sam was just to send a picture of his fucked face. I'm interested to see where it goes with that guy that just fucked Torres up. I'm interested to see who that guy is, where that's going.
I think I was reading. I don't want to say anything because I could be wrong. I'm going to be wrong. People are going to crucify me. So, what I was going to say was, I think I heard it's a woman.
It's a what?
A woman.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember if I read that. If I'm thinking of the right thing that I read or not. But
another series we keep forgetting. She-Hulk's getting one.
That's something I know nothing about at all.
They've cast She-Hulk, but I don't really know much about her. I don't even know who it is.
Oh, you don't remember the name?
Nah. It's probably going to be like the Wyatt Russell thing. You're going to see her and know exactly who she is. Here, I'll actually look it up. You make a point about something while I look this up.
I don't know if it's streaming on anything major or not, but if you want a good dose of Wyatt Russell and his curtness, try to find Overlord, because Overlord is pretty incredible. It's the one that's like half World War II movie, half zombie movie.
I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah, if you can find it, check it out for sure.
She-Hulk will be played by Tatiana Maslany.
Oh, from Orphan Black.
Oh, there you go. See, you knew.
She was right. She's in the Jake Gyllenhaal movie Stronger, where he was one of the victims of the Boston bombing.
Mm-hmm.
She's incredible in that. I thought she overshadowed Gyllenhaal in that. I thought.
Do you know what the cast list is for She-Hulk right now?
I don't know anything about it.
Her, Ginger Gonzaga, who doesn't even have a name. I don't know who that is. Tim Roth and Mark Ruffalo.
So he's finally coming back.
Yes.
I'm
waiting for William Hurt to pop up here.
He has to.
Mm-hmm.
So when is that coming?
2022.
So 14 years later, we're getting Abomination back.
I mean, How long was it? It was 8 years for Ross, wasn't it?
Are they going to do something with Tim Blake Nelson?
Maybe. I would imagine so.
So say they left that hanging too.
This makes me feel like that this is gonna we're gonna integrate the old Incredible Hulk more, which makes me wonder: is Liv Tyler coming back? Please tell me Ty Burrell's coming back.
How hilarious is it? Of the whole, you can even include Norton. Or from William Hurt, the only Incredible Hulk person to come back was Martin Starr. That's kind of amazing.
They have a picture up here. I don't know if you can see it or not. At the top of IMDb, when you go to the She-Hulk's page, it says the future of Marvel, and it's pimping out Loki, Talos, and Ms. Marvel. Yeah, these are the series that are coming out. This is what's listed right now. Like under more like this underneath, you've got Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, Hawkeye, Fantastic Four, Armor Wars, Loki, Captain Marvel 2, Ironheart, What If, Doctor Strange 2. There's going to be a series called I Am Groot, Thor Love and Thunder, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania, and Black Panther 2 and Adam Strange. That's another 5-6 years of material right there.
When are we supposed to be getting Thor Love and Thunder? Is that next year?
I just closed out. Hold on, I'll tell you. I'm psyched.
Because I can't believe. I mean, I should be able to believe it, but I mean that I'm this excited for all this stuff post Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Like Endgame felt like such a finish, and it's like we're just
2022.
Oh, and obviously Guardians 3's in here somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Do you know what Christian Bale's name is in Thor Love and Thunder?
I heard when they announced it, but I'm not familiar with the character.
Dude, I am totally on board with Christian Bale playing a character called Gore the God Butcher. Sign me up. If it's Christian Bale going Patrick Bateman on Gods, I'm there. Korg is back.
Who's that?
Korg.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Waititi's directing again, too, isn't he?
Matt Damon's listed again as actor Loki.
Oh, so he is playing the same character.
That's what it says. Oh, this is new. We have Sam Neill's back as actor Odin. We have actor Hela now. Melissa McCarthy.
All right.
Kraglin's in this one.
This is probably going to be stuff I wish I didn't know when it comes out. But
Kraglin's back. And Nebula's listed here. Peter Quill's listed here. That's it for the Guardians so far. Maybe if I click. Yeah, that's it. I know Batista's in it because Batista was posting on Instagram from Australia while they were filming.
Yeah, I'm assuming Sean Gunn's hanging around ready to do something. Whatever it is. Whether it be the in-person Rocket or somebody else.
I love that video clip of Sean Gunn walking as the Rocket motion capture. Have you seen it?
I think I saw a GIF of it once or something.
It's pretty great. I have to know. I'm going to look it up real quick. I did not know there was going to be an I Am Groot series. I want to know what it is. I have to know.
How much is Vin Diesel going to get paid to do that? Just to say his line. Or I'm not sure what he gets paid per movie, but I imagine it's a ridiculous amount.
Okay, I have the plot summary. A series of shorts featuring the seedling Groot along with several new and unusual characters.
At the rate they're going, they could probably expand on nearly every single character.
There's also Secret Invasion, which is in the comic, was the Skrulls.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times revisiting all this stuff that I really wish I had that giant Marvel textbook that you have. That would be really helpful.
That's how I found out who Catherine Hahn was. And she actually has, like, she intertwines a lot with WandaVision. She's a pretty major character against WandaVision.
So when it was revealed who she was, it was probably a really big fucking deal for people who knew.
Yeah, she's one of those characters that has a very small section, but, like, she was important. Armor Wars sounds interesting. Find out in this series what would happen if Tony Stark's tech fell into the wrong hands. I know Ironheart is a woman that takes over for Tony Stark. Well, she's cast. She's going to be Dominique Thorne.
I'm not sure who that is. Off the top of my head.
She was in If Beale Street Could Talk and Judas and the Black Messiah.
I know a Dominic.
That's literally it.
I know a Dominic Fishback that was in Judas and the Black Messiah. Is that a different person?
Maybe she got married. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. But basically, like, this is, if WandaVision is any indication of the direction we're going, Marvel's going to be fine for a while.
Yeah, especially since you can tell it's stuff that they've had. Like, all of this stuff we're hearing about probably has so many already preconceived ideas. Like, it's not like they're saying, hey, we'll do this show. Somebody think of something. Mm-hmm. Like everything is mapped out. Like, we have no idea what's already predetermined.
It almost feels like with all of these projects that we're building toward another endgame type scene with all different characters.
And it'll be that thing where it's like, how are you going to ever recapture that feeling again without Tony and Steve? And it's like, when we get there, we'll know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we might be relatively old guys by then, but we'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me that Marvel has so much on the table and they're still so popular that I turn 35 next month. There's a distinct possibility Marvel's still going to be creating properties when I turn 50.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like it would take an entire eternity to get there, but it's like, to think that 10 years isn't that long when you think of the first Iron Man to Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 10 years is kind of nothing.
Yeah. Crazy. I know that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are working on getting Daredevil into the MCU.
D'Onofrio especially, I've heard, is really passionate about it.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people want oh my god, his name escaped. John Bernthal's Punisher to come in.
I'm surprised D'Onofrio hasn't made it yet, because he and Downey are pretty close in real life.
Mm-hmm.
It has been for a while.
There's a Blade series in the works.
Marshall Ali, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jared Leto's doing Morbius.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. They've already accessed so many characters, and they have probably just about the same amount of characters on deck.
Saying what's really interesting is thinking about, because they're so widespread in their ideas, all this stuff we're talking about is stuff that's been announced.
Mm-hmm.
How much stuff do they have ideas for and are mapping out that have not been announced?
Mm-hmm. And every year at Disney's big event, they announce more.
And what's great about this is it's like a remote sign that it's like they talk about in Last Action Hero, you can't die until the braces go down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like only characters can die here, as we've seen, but we're talking to Marvel itself now. Until the braces go down, you're not going to die.
Mm-hmm. As somebody, we'll kind of leave on this note, as somebody that is so big into film, and you look at the influences of past films, like Wizard of Oz, like stuff that, everybody knows. When people look back on film 20 years from now, how big of a footprint do you think Marvel's going to have on film history?
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it's like we keep talking about with stuff when they tried to do. I'm going to talk about the Snyder Cut probably in like the next video after this one, and we'll go into that whole thing. But the way things are trying, like in the whole when Universal tried to redo the Monster Universe with Tom Cruise's Mummy, and like everybody really wants to give this kind of thing a try, and they always like fall on their faces. They can't, like it's like a one-time thing basically.
Even Star Wars can't pull it off.
Yeah, because was it Solo that didn't really do as well as they hoped?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I can't really think of.
But then Star Wars turned around and made The Mandalorian, and it brought all the goodwill back. Yeah, which I still haven't checked out yet. Need to.
Yeah, same with me. And it's like because I do feel I'm pretty forgiving of the Star Wars franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Rise of Skywalker kind of did me. That's it. So yeah, but and yeah, and that's the other thing. Also, was stuff like WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier and stuff like that. Was another reason I was afraid at first it was going to be overkill. Was I didn't realize they were just miniseries, like their own contained things. It's like that's the smartest way they could have done this.
I just think it's crazy to think about, like, back when you watched the first Iron Man, for example, everybody was talking about how much of a game changer The Dark Knight was. And Iron Man was just hanging there waiting to just turn the entire industry upside down.
Yeah. Because when Iron Man came out, it was like, this is a good way to kill time until The Dark Knight.
I mean, what do you think somebody would have told you if they would have said The Dark Knight and Iron Man in the same year? You're going to get the same Iron Man 9 times, and Batman's going to have been rebooted twice in that time.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Obviously, Nolan's trilogy ended by choice. Like it was always the intention that was going to be a trilogy. But with that aside, just thinking about the fact that Iron Man was us killing time until The Dark Knight, and next year Nolan's trilogy will have ended 10 years ago.
Nolan's trilogy ended the same year the first Avengers came out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I tell people all the time, we'll never see anything this well put together like this in our lifetime again. Like the fact that Kevin Feige shows so much patience and so much confidence in his work that he doesn't feel the need to give you too much too quickly. Like he'll tell you with his end credit scenes and everything, yeah, I'm going to make it, but you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait until it's exactly the right time.
You talk about people that are like growing up with this, which is like I talked about how like I've had certain life experiences I equate to around the time anime with Tony Stark and it was coming out, which is why his death still kind of hits you on almost kind of a personal level. It was blowing my mind recently thinking about the fact that we have another brother who was 1 year old when Iron Man came out, and then that he might not appreciate me airing this on the internet, but Dad was telling me that he had a very very big emotional reaction to Endgame
Mm-hmm.
when it came out. And it's like the whole thing where like we kind of been, because I would have been 17 when the first Iron Man came out. And then we saw the whole thing, and now we're in like into adulthood and all that. And it's like to see Iron Man die when the first one came out when you were a baby must be very interesting as well.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I tell Susan all the time, you know, I can't wait till the little one gets older and to get to watch her reaction to all of these the first time. Like I told Susan, I was like, I am so jealous that she's going to get to live through all this for a first time. And my first time is past, it's gone. I'll never have that again.
It's like it's the equation everybody uses. It's the equivalent of a parent showing their child the Star Wars series,
Mm-hmm.
just with a lot more movies. And that's the thing. Also, is I'm assuming she's caught glimpses of stuff, but it's like there's seeing things when you're that young, and then there's really watching them when you're old enough to fully comprehend
and understanding it.
It's like when you see all this stuff now about the people who are our age,
Mm-hmm.
reminiscing on the supposed kids movies that were totally like heavy when you go back and look at them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a new generation of people who are like, wow, I remember being 10 years old and seeing Tony Stark die. That was terrifying
Mm-hmm.
and devastating.
No, Tony Stark's death isn't terrifying. What's terrifying is the Tony Stark zombie crawling out of the ground.
Fucking Gyllenhaal. How dare he?
God, what a masterclass that scene is, though. It's crazy. Like, they succeed in movies. They've succeeded in TV. I mean, it's a juggernaut that can't be stopped because it's a consistent team that's put it together from day one. And like you said, to be excited about WandaVision, which is a show that centers around characters that came in, 6 or 7 movies in?
When you look back on it, it feels relatively late.
Mm-hmm. And add to that the fact that this is on the heels of a movie that had probably the biggest fight scene as far as major characters that has ever or will ever be seen.
Yeah, it's interesting when you word it that way. Because when you think about the fact that the first Avengers movie in 2012 was basically the end game of its time.
It feels so small now.
And then the fact that these characters in WandaVision weren't even introduced in a big way until the sequel to that movie.
Which had 3 movies after that first one to build up to.
I mean, obviously, technically, Vision was always there for counting Jarvis, but as far as him in like his physical form, we didn't meet until. Not only did we not meet until Age of Ultron, until almost the end. This was like we kind of did 2 videos in one here.
Yeah, pretty much.
I may have to and modify what exactly the title of this is. So
it's more like WandaVision and Marvel preview.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit more retrospective, kind of continuing on last week.
It's just crazy because, you know, it's something that we've talked about a lot, but it's 24 movies. There's more Marvel movies than Bond movies, and Bond's been around for 40 years longer. 46 years ago, actually.
Well, Marvel's also got the upper hand because No Time to Die is never going to come out. So.
They should change the title to No Time to Come Out.
No Time to Exist. It does have a release date finally, right? Like a solidified one. I don't remember what it is anymore because it's jumped around so much. But
it's just so crazy. Like, it's almost like Marvel planned it because they were like, we can't do the theaters. Okay, Disney Plus, watch it at home.
Like this will tide you over until the next movie.
And the crazy thing is you would think that was the plan, but these series were announced long before the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Hell, I want to say WandaVision was announced just within a few months of Endgame coming out.
I can't remember for sure now. It's all God, those announcements are always so busy. There's so much to hype at once.
I know whenever those events happen, like just because of Marvel, I'm a DC person. I grew up, Batman is still my favorite, but those events, Marvel keeps me on my phone all day because I just can't wait to see what their next ideas are. And I'm excited. I'm excited for projects about characters I've never fucking heard of.
Yeah.
And it's
that's
like,
kind of the beauty of this.
It is. It's like, I don't know who the hell that is. Marvel made it? Okay. I'm in.
Yeah, because I feel it's such a disadvantage for not knowing too much about the comics.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's all the more the surprise element when they get here.
Mm-hmm.
So is that pretty much it?
I think so. I think that finally wraps it up.
All right. I don't know. I'm assuming we're gonna, when Falcon and Winter Soldier ends, we'll probably do this for that.
Probably.
And in the meantime, I'm not sure what you want to do next, but I'm assuming we'll figure that out.
Possibly, yeah.
And like I said, I'm gonna do something on the Snyder Cut the next day or so, hopefully. Wore this shirt is I've been preparing to do that video for like 3 days now.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long it takes to watch it. Yeah, and then those reviews I was gonna do that still haven't come out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then we still got like a weekly award stuff going on. Now that we're in the thick of that.
When are the Oscar nominations supposed to be announced again?
They're out.
They are out, aren't they? Was there any like major surprises that you were like, whoa?
Yep. Yes, there was. Lakeith Stanfield was probably the biggest one. Because he's the Judas in Judas and the Black Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the lead, and he was campaigned in lead.
Mm-hmm.
And he got put in supporting.
Mm.
But he had no precursors whatsoever. Everybody thought he was leading, so everybody was like, what in the hell is he doing here? I mean, his literal response on Instagram was, I'm confused too, but fuck it, LMAO.
Mm.
I'm assuming you're familiar with Lakeith Stanfield from Get Out and Atlanta. He's the guy that screams Get Out and Get Out.
Mm.
So, and you still haven't watched Uncut Gems yet. That tells me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I thought it was pretty interesting that Stephen Wen got nominated.
Yeah, he got in at SAG, and that was kind of his big push.
Mm-hmm.
His movie's probably going to be pretty big, but Nomadland's kind of a juggernaut right now.
I'm kind of fuzzy on the details, but if I remember right, is Anthony Hopkins the only lead nominee that's won before?
So you got Steven Yeun, you got Boseman.
I know Anthony Hopkins became the oldest to be nominated in leading.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe he's 83.
No, not only is he the oldest, but it was the only back-to-back nomination this year because he got it for the Two Popes last year.
Oh, that's right.
Anthony Hopkins is still crushing it. See that Robert Duvall is 90 and he just got a really cool leading part.
Mm-mm.
It's some sort of Hannibal-esque role. It's really interesting, but yeah. I'm trying to switch gears back into awards, and I'm trying to remember who the hell the other leading nominees are. Gary Oldman, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal. So you have access to most of these with all the streaming services, and a lot of them, like Sound of Metal, I highly recommend. And Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which missed picture and adapted screenplay, which is weird and unsettling because I really love that movie. But
isn't Daniel Kaluuya nominated this year?
Yeah, he's supporting. He's supporting for Judas and Black Messiah, and he's probably going to win. Like if he when he wins SAG in a couple of weeks, that'll probably solidify that.
Didn't you tell me that lead is pretty much all but been decided? It's probably going to be Chadwick Boseman.
It's been long decided. So yes, to bring us back to Marvel, Judas and the Black Messiah is about Daniel Kaluuya being chairman of the Black Panther Party, and he's betrayed by Lakeith Stanfield. In Black Panther, who is going to be the person that wins in leading, Daniel Kaluuya betrayed Black Panther.
Chadwick Boseman's nomination. That's yet another you're gonna have to remember for Endgame in the Sporkle game.
Yeah.
Endgame's gonna get them all, man.
All right. So, is that? And I mean, if you want to keep going, I mean, we're not there yet, but Riz Ahmed was the villain in Venom, so you can throw him in there too. All right. I guess we should probably end this. Sometimes I keep forgetting we're still recording. Oh God. All right. And I don't think I'm even going to edit this. It's just going to be as is. Like every now and then I take a little something out if I feel like there's something irrelevant. But I don't even think people notice, so it's like I'm just going to leave this. So it's we've almost gone into podcast format at this rate, so fuck it.
Pretty much.
In the words of Lakeith Stanfield on his nomination, fuck it. So yeah, so is there anything else to add?
No, I'm done.
Surely not. All right, then I think that's it.